The wind howled through the rugged peaks of the Rocky Mountains, rattling the frost-laced windows of my isolated cabin as I, Nova Hale, carefully packed the last of my developed photographs into a maple crate. It was November 28th, 2025, my 37th birthday, and the steel-gray sky outside echoed the subtle tension in my chest. For weeks, I'd poured my vision into creating gifts for my family's Thanksgiving reunion, a framed black-and-white portrait of my mother, capturing her rare smile, a photo album of mountain landscapes for my father, a homage to his hiking days, and a custom camera strap for my younger brother, Kai, embroidered with his initials, a nod to our shared lens adventures. The phone rang at 5 p.m., my mother's name flashing on the screen. I answered, film-stained hands shaking, expecting her usual rant about the feast or guest list. Instead, her voice was cold, scripted, like a director calling cut. "Nova, we've decided it's best if you don't come to Thanksgiving this year." A clatter of silverware and Kai's laugh, biting, mocking, and dripping with contempt, sliced through the line. "No offense, Nov, but it's just less foggy without your photo obsessions. You get it, right?" Dad's voice rumbled faintly, a half-hearted grunt of agreement. Mom pressed on, her tone clipped. "It's not about you, dear. We're keeping it clear and simple." Clear and simple, as if I were a blur to be cropped, not a daughter. I thought, my grip tightening on the crate, the wood creaking, a faint split forming along the seam. "Why?" I whispered, my voice a fragile shudder against the wind's fury. A pause hung heavy and calculated, then Mom said, "We'll talk it over after the new year," and the call ended with a sharp click. I stood there, the phone still warm against my ear, the unwrapped gifts staring back like silent exposures, the portrait a mockery, the album a tribute to a father who'd turned away. No tears came, just a hollow exposure, as if the wind had stripped the light from my world. I shoved the crate into a dark corner, beside unused film rolls and wrapping paper, locking away the proof of my exclusion. The question wasn't why they'd done it, but what they'd framed about me long before that call, a composition of neglect captured over years. I grew up in a sturdy timber frame house in Boulder, Colorado, where the mountain air blended with the scent of my mother's sage incense and Dad's brewing espresso. Mom, Lydia Hale, ran a trendy outdoor gear store, her energy drawing adventurers like moths to a flame. Dad, Elias Hale, taught photography at the community college, his classes alive with tales of light and shadow. Kai, 9 years younger, was the brilliant Flash. Sandy hair catching the sun, a magnetic charm that turned photoshoots into local myths, and a knack for turning blunders into stories of creative vision. I was Nova, the quiet one who photographed in the basement, organized the cluttered darkroom, and dreamed of studying photography at the School of Visual Arts in New York. The favoritism began early, subtle but persistent. Kai's D in art earned a camera outing with Dad. My A in photography got a distracted, "Good shot, keep going." When he shattered Mom's lens, they laughed about his experimental style, buying him a new tripod. When I won a national photo contest at 22, Mom said, "That's nice, Nova, but don't let it eclipse practical pursuits." I left for community college at 22, funding it with scholarships and freelance gigs, later enrolling in the School of Visual Arts online program while working as a studio photographer. Kai stayed home, drifting through adventure guiding, barista shifts, and now a eco-photography vlog with dubious funding. I never envied his brilliance. I cherished his energy, seeing it as a focus to my frame. I drove home for his 27th birthday, planned a photo safari, covered the equipment rental when Mom forgot, and developed him a custom print as a gift. I sent Dad rare photo books, helped Mom with store catalogs during blizzards, stayed up late editing Kai's vlog thumbnails. But their holiday cards read, "Kai's capturing waves with Eco Lens vlog. Nova's busy in the Rockies." Last winter, Kai called, panicked about a failed vlog sponsorship. I wired him $3,800, no questions, and he called me his shutter sister. Then, on my birthday, he laughed and said, "Less foggy without your shots." A week later, I scrolled Instagram, seeking distraction, and found their Thanksgiving post. The familiar oak table, mom's pine nut centerpiece, dad's earth tone napkins. Except I was cropped out. In my place stood Selena Vega, a sleek adventure photographer with a cabin retreat and a large following. She posed with Kai, arms linked, mom beaming beside them. The caption read, "Thankful for our new focus this season." More photos followed, Selena snapping with dad, toasting with mom, posing with Kai by the fire. My absence wasn't just a blank, it was filled, framed, and flaunted for all to see. I checked our family chat, deleted, not muted, erased as if I'd never focused. Old photos on mom's profile, my 32nd birthday, dad's 75th, remained, but I was untagged, a ghost in my own album. I called Aunt Renata, dad's sister, who'd always developed my films. Her voice trembled. "Nova, dear, I thought you were on a photo expedition. That's what Lydia said." I didn't argue. The truth hit like a landslide, heavier than her excuse. I hung up, staring at the bare wall where our last family photo had hung. Me, Kai, and Dad at the gorge, removed months ago, my heart sensing the rift before my mind grasped it. I didn't post, didn't text, didn't rush to Boulder to demand answers. Friends invited me to their Thanksgivings. I declined with a tight smile, unwilling to borrow their light. My coworker, Elias, offered to crash their dinner with a camera to capture their faces. I laughed, but said, "No exposure needed, just watch me develop." I packed away the holiday decor, string lights with leaves, a sculpted camera I'd made at 15, handling each piece like a fragile negative of a lost family. The gifts stayed buried in the crate. On Thanksgiving, I brewed a solitary cup of chamomile tea with honey, sat by my window, and watched snow dust the canyons, the silence a defiant frame. No music, no calls, just the hearth's soft crackle and my steady breath. A rebellion in quietness. I hiked the trails later, boots crunching snow, watching families gather around fires, their joy a contrast to my solitude. The world was festive, but I was unshackled, free from their composition. In mid-December, a letter arrived not from Boulder, but from Portland, Oregon. A thick parchment envelope bore the seal of Whitaker and Fields, attorneys at law. Expecting a debt notice, I opened it with caution. "Dear Miss Nova Hale, as executor of the estate of Beatrice Hale, your presence is requested regarding inheritance matters. Grandma Beatrice, my father's mother, whom I thought had passed 12 years ago after a whispered cancer." I dialed the number, hands shaking. "Miss Hale," said a calm voice. "Attorney Sophia Whitaker. Beatrice passed on November 15th, 2025. I regret you weren't informed." My pulse raced. "This year?" My family said. Whitaker's tone softened. "Come to Portland. There's more to this picture." 2 days later, I sat in her modern office, the Willamette River glistening beyond. She handed me a death certificate, Beatrice Hale, November 15th, 2025, and an obituary from the Portland Tribune listing Lydia, Elias, Kai, but omitting me. "Why wasn't I told?" I asked, voice shattering. Whitaker slid a leather-bound will across the desk. "Beatrice insisted you be contacted privately. She distrusted your family's motives." The will granted me everything: her Portland loft with its dark room, an $8.4 million investment portfolio, her photography archives, and a studio filled with her unfinished prints. Kai received $45,000, my parents a faded camera lens. A USB drive held a video dated August 2024. Beatrice appeared, frail but fierce, her blue eyes piercing the camera. "Nova, my focused lens," she began, her voice a steady shudder. "If you're watching, I'm gone, and your family likely hid it. You were my vision, your eye capturing beauty, your quiet strength amid their disregard. Your parents leaned on me for Kai's vlog,
took loans against my home without consent, pressured me to fund his projects. I forgave, but I protected you. This is yours. Frame your destiny. A second video showed financial records, loan contracts, her voice steady. They siphoned my trust. Nova never did. She captured her own light. I sat stunned, the room swaying. They hadn't just excluded me from Thanksgiving, they'd buried her death, her funeral, her love, cropping my image from their frame. Whitaker rested a hand on mine. Beatrice chose you for your authenticity. That was the deepest cut, not the wealth, but the betrayal, a negative exposed. I agreed to meet them at a Boulder cafe, neutral ground, not for peace, but to see their masks shatter. I arrived early, claiming a booth by the snow-crusted window, the storm outside a silent witness. Mom looked fragile, her coat clutched tight, hands wringing a glove. Dad's shoulders slumped, his scarf damp with nerves. Kai swaggered in, wool coat gleaming, his smirk fading under my unyielding stare. They began with small talk, weather, the drive, then Mom shifted, her voice brittle. "Nova, there's a mix-up with Beatrice's estate. She was unwell those last years."
Ronan leaned back, smirking. "She loved me most. That will's a fluke." Dad murmured, "We could share it fairly. Keep the townhouse in the family." I leaned in, voice low and firm, each word a precise line. "Isabella saw you borrow against her home, hide her death, erase me from her life. She chose me because I earned my way, unlike you." Mom recoiled, her hands shaking. Ronan's fists clenched, his bravado fracturing. Dad stared at his cold coffee, his silence a confession. "Elowyn, don't be vengeful," Mom pleaded, her voice breaking. I rose, towering over them. Vengeful was letting me think she'd been gone 13 years. Vengeful was Thanksgiving without me, replacing me with Lila. Ronan snapped, "You're no sister if you take this." I met his eyes icy and resolute. "You chose that when you mocked me." I walked out, their protests, Mom's choked sobs, Dad's stammered pleas, Ronan's furious shouts fading into the blizzard. Texts flooded in. Dad's, "We're still your blood." Mom's, "You're tearing us apart." Ronan's, "This is unjust." I deleted them all. The anger melted into clarity, like a sunrise over the vines. I sold Isabella's investments, kept the townhouse, and moved to San Francisco. The home smelled of her ink, old sketchbooks, and untapped potential. I transformed her studio to Veil Visions, my illustration firm, its walls lined with her drawings and my new works. My first project was a book cover for a children's series. The second, an illustrated map for a travel guide, each line honoring Isabella's vision. I hired Kai as my art director, his creative spark balancing me, and we built a dynamic team. At night, I illustrated Isabella's unfinished sketches, her voice a whisper in my mind. "Create, Elowyn. Draw your truth." This Thanksgiving, I hosted in my townhouse, not in St. Helena, but a new sanctuary. Kai brought sourdough, his family's recipe. Neighbor Lena brought empanadas, her spices warming the air. Friends, illustrators, writers, a mosaic of souls, filled the table with laughter, eclectic dishes, and stories. No turkey, just lanterns casting a warm glow, a piano duet playing softly, the windows fogging with life. I placed Isabella's photo on the mantel, us at her easel, both smiling, no one else in frame, a silent testament to her choice. Ronan emailed, demanding his $50,000, his tone haughty. I forwarded it to Sterling, who issued a legal warning. Mom sent a tearful note, pleading for family peace. I left it sealed. Dad called, leaving a voicemail of silence, a plea without voice. I didn't need their redemption. Veil Visions thrived. 30 commissions in the first month, then 60. A national grant for a public mural in Napa. The townhouse's iron door now bore a brass plaque, Elowyn Vale, Illustrator.
Isabella's legacy wasn't just riches. It was proof I'd always been enough, a drawing they couldn't erase. They thought they'd inked me out, but I illustrated a future they'd never shade.